I'm Dean Safola, and this is the Azure Academy. To get the most out of the cloud, we need to do things in a cloud-focused manner, which means differently than how we've been doing it on-prem. And that could be where you have virtual machines that are running 24/7 on-prem, but in the cloud, you shut them down in hours when they're not used so that you don't get charged for them. Or like what we're going to talk about today, how we can decouple the operating system, user profile, and applications from our VMs. Yes, that's right. Today we are talking about MSIX App Attach as part of our Windows Virtual Desktop series. So if you haven't done so already, please click on the subscribe button and join us here at the Azure Academy community. It helps you to stay in touch with what we're doing, as well as lets the YouTube algorithm know that you appreciate our content. And give us some comments down below on any questions you have on today's topic or anything else, or if you have an idea for a future video, we'd love to hear from you. Now, just one note before we get started here. What we are looking at today with MSIX App Attach is not at all end state. This is the first public preview of this, and so just want to set expectations up front. What we're going to do today is piecing together a solution from multiple different scripts and commands, but in the end, this will be much more of a fluid user experience. So we have an absolute mountain of material to cover in just a short time today. So let's go right to the Azure Docs. And from our Docs page, we'll want to go to Products and then scroll all the way down to the very bottom. You'll find Windows Virtual Desktop. And in our search bar over on the left, we want to type in MSIX, and we get our quick link here under the How To section to set up MSIX App Attach. App Attach builds on top of MSIX Packages. So if you're used to doing normal package management for the last 10 years or so, you would take something like an executable, batch file, script, something like that, and then pass that into a packaging tool. And then at the end of that, all command switches and user preferences and all that, you would get something at the end, possibly an MSI file. And then you would deploy that through something as simple as just put it out on a share and someone can click on it, or a little more automated with group policy, or something that is a platform management tool like Configuration Manager. Well, App Attach takes that scenario into the cloud-focused way of doing things by now packaging those MSIX files as VHDs, and we're going to store those on a share that is accessible to our virtual desktop systems, and then we can attach that VHD to the VMs on demand very quickly, and the application is just sideloaded, if you will, onto the VM without us having to do any installations. So everything is kept separate, and like you can see in the graphic here, we decouple the operating system from our user profiles and our applications now with App Attach, and then they're just connected to the VM on demand. So we're going to walk through all layers of this process from start to finish so that you can see how it's done. And in our docs here, we're going to look down at the requirements, and there is an important requirement to call out first, and that is the version of Windows 10 that is required to support App Attach is currently in the Insider Preview. So if you do not have Insider Preview access, then I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait until the bits are made public. But if you do, then you can click on this link here to get the proper image, and I'll open that in a new tab. And this is the Insider Preview download screen. And what we need to do is scroll down here and we come to the Select Edition. And from here, we need to select this fast build. And that could be for Insider 10 Preview fast or Enterprise fast, or if you're in the China regions, China fast. So whichever one works for you. And then I'll select Enterprise, and then you hit the confirm button. It'll validate your request. And then you have the option of picking which language you want to download in. And I will take English and then hit confirm. Again, this may take a minute or two. And once that is ready, now you've got 2 downloads that you can pick from. and you will need the 64-bit. So go ahead and download that image. I've already done this, of course, because downloading an image can take quite a while. And I've already staged this Hyper-V environment and built a VM from it and captured that as an image. So going back to our docs, this talks through the stuff that I just mentioned, and then you come to the prepare a VHD image for Azure. And if you've seen any of our custom image videos in the past, then this will be nothing new new to you, and you can go check them out in the YouTube card. And you should follow this link to prepare a custom master image. And then you will also be required to run these commands, which you can copy and just run inside the VM directly. And once you have done that, then you need to capture your image and bring it into Azure. So let's go over to the Azure portal. And we're looking here at one of my storage accounts. And if we go under containers and images, I've got my VHD image already packaged up and exported from Hyper-V and uploaded to the cloud. So we now have to make this a managed image so that we can deploy it onto managed disk, which is the only right way to deploy things in Azure these days. And for that, we're going to search at the top here for images, and then we'll click on images. So once we have our image, we can now deploy a VM right from the image just by clicking the Create VM inside that image, and then walk through our normal image creation process. Notice that my App Attach image is already selected for me, and then everything else is as normal. And once you're done, you'll end up with a VM ready for the next step. So let's go back to our docs. So the next step here would be to prepare our app for MSIX App Attach, but we need an MSIX file. And to get an MSIX application, we need an MSIX packaging tool. So for this, I'm just going to open my Microsoft Store, and you can do this on any machine. We'll just go to the search here and type in MSIX, and there is our MSIX packaging tool. And when we click on that, we'll now be able to do an installation, and this is a free tool. And once that's finished installing, we can launch. And when it opens for the first time, you can choose whether or not you want to send diagnostic data to Microsoft. I'll hit accept. And now we're presented with our packaging tool. So let me give you a very quick tour here. In the top right corner, we have our settings, and this is where we can choose where we're going to use our default locations, what our signing preferences will be. We'll come back to that one in just a second. Under data and settings, you can choose to export or import settings from your packaging tool. So you only have to do the setup just once. And under installer exit codes, if you have custom exit codes that you need to set up for your apps, you can add those to the tool here. All right, those are the highlights, and let's go back to the tool defaults. And I mentioned the signing preference. So under the signer preference, you can choose to not sign your packages and provide a certificate, or in the certificate in the form of a PFX file. And that's what I'm going to do. And because it's a PFX, you need to provide the password. And then we can click Save Settings. So now that we've done that, now we need to do our actual packaging. The beauty of MSIX is that while you can get quite complex, it's also not rocket science. So if we click on Create an App Package, so I'll do it on this computer and then hit Next. When you do, the MSIX packaging driver is going to be installed and check out your system. Basically what this does is this allows the capture process to occur. Everything that happens on the system related to the app installation is going to be captured and packaged together. And once those drivers have been all set up, we are ready to proceed. So we'll hit Next. And now we need to provide a executable script or whatnot that we're going to package. And then we can specify any arguments needed for the installation, and this will be running silently. So I'm not going to specify anything at this point, but you certainly can. And I'll just hit Next. And then we have to fill out our package information. So we're just going to call this package VLC, and it'll have a display name of VLC. And then we have our certificate information here that pulled right out of our PFX file, the publisher display name, what version we want to call this package, a description of our package, again, VLC, not very creative. This is just an example, and where our installation location will be. Notice it says here, once you continue to the next page, the installation will begin. So it's going to kick off my VLC player and install it, and you will not be able to come back to this screen. And just to prove that VLC is not currently installed, let me open Start and do a search. And when I do, you can see the installer executables that I have on my system, but we do not have an option to open VLC Player, and it's just going out to the internet. We'll hit Next here, and you can see that kicks off the installation of VLC. We'll hit OK, and we'll just take the defaults here. And then you can choose whether or not you want to let it run after it installs. I'll take that checkbox off and just hit Finish. And now if we need to provide a restart at the end of our installation, we can click the restart button. VLC does not need that, so we'll just hit next. And then it's finishing all of our packaging, and then we hit next again. And it asks us if we are done with doing everything, and yes, I am, so I will move on. And then it's creating our MSIX package from that installation that we just did. See? Not rocket science, but again, you can get far more creative with this than I am here in this example. And I've chosen a save location here, and then we will hit create. Successfully created, and we have our MSIX package sitting now on our desktop. So let me take my package now, and I'll copy it up to my new Windows 10 machine. Okay, and you can see VLC Player is there along with Notepad++ that I have already packaged, and there is my signing script as well. Now, the one thing that is critical here is that your signing script, it does need to be a code signing script. You do have to have that installed into your system. So I have run that on this machine, and it needs to be run on every machine that is going to run your packages. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So in proceeding with the installation of App Attach, you can see I've got a number of PowerShell files sitting here on my desktop, and let's open that up in PowerShell ISE. So all of the code that we're going to be looking at now is going to be found in our Azure docs. So let me just show you that quick. So we're on to this next step, generate a VHD or VHDX package for MSIX. And for that, we're going to need to download this tool, which I already have and put on my desktop, but you can click the link to download that. And now we need to have a VHD file in order to work with it. So there is some commands here in order to create a VHD for you, which I've got in the PowerShell. And then we're going to run this MSIX manager command, which is going to take our MSIX file and put it all inside our VHD so that we can get it ready for App Attach. And once we do that, we should see this successfully unpacked message. So let's go do those steps. If you're performing this step on a system that does not have certain Windows features enabled like Hyper-V, then you may not have the new VHD commands. So you can always check that by typing out the command. And you can see IntelliSense does not find it on my local system. So all is not lost. We can do this in another way in case you run into that. But otherwise, you can just run the commands as they are presented in the docs. But I'll walk you through this manually, and this will just take a second. So if we open the Disk Management tool, and then we go to Actions and Create VHD, and then browse to where we want to store our VHD file. And you can just give it a name like the name of the application, VLC in my case, and hit save. And then choose how large you want this to be. And your VHD should be dynamically expanding, and hit OK. And there is our virtual hard drive. That was our first command, and it's been mounted. So that was our second command. And now we need to initialize. So we can just right click on it and initialize the disk. And then once that is done, we need to set up a new partition and then format it. So I will do that, taking most of the defaults, although I will be choosing drive X. And then I'll be labeling this volume for VLC and then finish. And there is our new X drive. So if we open up the File Explorer, we can see there is indeed our X drive, which shows up like a normal hard drive on the system. So that was all of these first several commands. Now we need to use that MSIX Manager tool that we downloaded. So what I'm doing here is I'm telling it the package path is inside MSIX Manager. So let's open that location. And in there, I've also placed my packages so that they can be in the same spot as my manager, just to make the pathing a little bit easier. And then I'm calling my VLC package and telling it that the destination to put this package is on the X drive in a folder called VLC. Now, this is an important thing to point out. Let's go back to our docs for a moment. Step number 9 says you have to create a parent folder on the mounted VHD file. This is mandatory, as MSIX App Attach requires a parent folder. So I missed that the first couple times I did this, and it wasn't working for me. Once I added the parent folder, problem solved. That's where I'm doing that here in the destination. The X drive is the VHD, and then it'll be creating a parent folder labeled VLC, which is just the name of the application. So I will run that. That'll take about a minute in my case, but your mileage may vary based on your application. Okay, and we see that successfully unpacked message like we were hoping. And now what we're going to need for our next step is we're going to need our volume GUID. And so I've written a short PowerShell command to get me just that information and store it in the variable volume GUID. And there are other ways to get at this command as well that are inside the docs. So there's our GUID. And let me go to the stage 1, and you can see volume GUID is going to be referenced here. So let's take a look quick at what we've got so far. So we've got an X drive, and in there is the VLC parent folder. And inside there, we'll get a warning when we try to open this, but that's okay. We can continue. Then you'll see a folder that should be the same name as your MSIX package. You'll want to copy that and put it here under the package name. And wherever your VHD is going to be stored, you'll want to put that as your VHD source. And the name of our parent folder is VLC. We're going to update that to be in a right format that we're going to need for App Attach. And then we have this MSIX junction, and this is a path just in the temp directory where we're going to do some mounting for some of the later commands. So now that I've got all of that, let me close my File Explorer, and we're going to unmount the drive by right-clicking and go to Detach VHD. So we'll run these variables first, and then we'll clear our screen. We're going to run the second set of commands to mount our disk from our source location, in this case, my share, but we are not going to provide it a drive letter. And we can see from our green command output that the mounting was successful. Now what we're going to do is take our volume GUID that we captured, and now we're going to pass that to another command here. We're going to make a MSIX destination, and then we're going to create a directory if it does not exist already, and that directory was our C temp app attach. And then we're going to combine that package along with that location name and then run a mklink command. And this is doing symbiotic links. So this is kind of like doing shortcuts at a command line level. So that way we're connecting our VHD mounted location with our application directory that really exists. So we'll run those commands. And that was done successfully. So let's clear the screen. And so we'll kick off our final part of the staging script. And this will take a minute or so in order to run. And then we'll get an output on the screen once that is done. And this is getting everything ready for the next step, which will be creating the assignment on the local system for the application. That took several minutes to complete on our system, and you can see status was ran to completion, which is definitely what we want to see. So the next step, according to our docs, is to run the register PowerShell script, which will mount our new application, and it'll run the app manifest file, which will load it like a Windows Store app on the system. So let's do that. Now, just to show you that there's no smoke and mirrors, again, we'll do a VLC. And we can see the executable that is present on our system. But you can see from our start menu, there is no VLC player installed on our box. So let's clear our screen. And so you'll need to not only copy this to your local system, but then update your package name as well. And then we can just run this script. And that'll just take a second. And then if we look at our start menu, we can see VLC player has been attached. So it is that fast and that simple. Now that that is done, let's open VLC. And there we go. We've got VLC player. And since I don't have any media on this system, I can still try to open a network stream, and we'll hit play. And now we're streaming a Azure Academy video in VLC player installed through App Attach. So I think that looks like it's running pretty awesome. So let me walk you through the rest of the process here. So we're going to deregister, which is going to, again, remove it from our start menu. But you copy this from the docs, and then you've got to update your package name. So we'll run all of that. And then we'll clear the screen there. And once that is done, then we can run the final one, which is to destage the app attach disk from our system. So I'll run that, and that is all completed successfully. So now if we go back to our start menu, we can see VLC is gone. And so we have successfully attached and detached our application. So now what we need to do is put this into more of the real world. So as I said back in the beginning, this is in preview at this point, and we only have the manual effort to do app attach. But in our docs, we do mention here in this next section to set up simulation scripts for the App Attach agent. So this is two things. First of all, it appears that there will be an App Attach agent that will be coming to make this a seamless experience. And second, in the meantime, you can use startup, log on, log off, and shutdown scripts. And we give you the information here as to where you need to put the stage, register, deregister, and destage. And we also include a link if you are unfamiliar with using those scripts and group policies. But to finish off today, we're going to go back to my WVD environment. So here we are logged in as user Black Widow, and we'll open up our desktop experience, and we got our credentials, and we'll hit submit. And we can see Black Widow logged in using our FS Logix profile. And we go back, we can log into our network share, go to our App Attach script, and then run our register with PowerShell. And under our start menu, there is VLC Player. And if you're interested in seeing a scripted version of the login so that everything will happen seamlessly, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because we will be making a video on that pretty soon and you don't want to miss that. So I hope that you've enjoyed looking at MSIX App Attach. It is finally here in preview, but it's going to only improve, and that means we need your feedback. So give me some comments down below on what you think of MSIX App Attach. And while you're down there, hit that thumbs up if you thought that this was a good video. Click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and join us here at the Azure Academy community, where we're all just trying to learn about Azure. And if you are interested in an email notification when our videos come out, which is roughly once a week, you can hit that notification bell while you're down there as well. Hope you've enjoyed this video today, and we will see you in the next one. Happy learning.